Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me for a new episode of the Women's Eye podcast. I'm your host, Stacey Gualandi. Now, here at the Women's Eye, we get to celebrate fascinating women who are taking charge, making a difference, and helping you create the life you really want. Like my guest right here, Vanessa Loder. Vanessa is a leadership expert, speaker, and TEDx superstar who first appeared on the Women's Eye to talk about her popular 30-day meditation challenge 7 years ago. So I know now she has a new book, The Soul Solution, a guide for brilliant, overwhelmed women. So, and now have I got your attention? If you are looking to get a new lease on your life and get your life in order, you will, not should, read this book. Welcome, Vanessa. It's great to see you.
Great to see you too, Stacey, and it's fun to be back here.
It's great. I decided to match your book cover.
I love it. I love it. Vibrant colors. I'm all about the bold colors.
Exactly. But I can't believe it's been 7 years. Obviously, we're both, I know you're still meditating. I'm kind of, I get in and get out, and I started doing the transcendental meditation too and stuff. But yeah, you're still all in on meditation. That never has wavered at all, right?
I mean, of course it's wavered. I have 2 small kids and a life, and there's days and weeks when I'm more committed to the practice than others, and it ebbs and flows. And I've also changed how I meditate or what I do during meditation, because I find I can get bored with the same thing. So over the years, there's different practices. But yes, overall, I am still meditating daily.
Well, like I said before we started rolling, you haven't aged a bit in 7 years. So, but what's gone on in your life that led you to the point of writing The Soul Solution? Obviously, some things went on in order for you to inform you in writing this book.
Yeah, well, I mean, part of it was just working with so many women who were struggling with overwhelm and exhaustion and burnout, and the feeling that they were meant for more in their lives. And they had, this feeling in their bones that they want more meaning and purpose and fulfillment and joy and ease, and didn't know how to get it. And then, I always knew I wanted to write a book, but I was also not wanting to write a book from just a place of ego or shouldness or, oh, this will help me scale my business faster. Because when I do things from only that motivation, I don't have as much satisfaction and joy, and they often don't have the best results. And so frankly, what happened was several years ago, I had a very vivid dream of a book cover, and it was this like white cover with like an Egyptian goddess head on the front with the, those golden black bars that go around anyway, but it was just one of those dreams that was so vivid and emotional. I couldn't even explain why. And I woke up from the dream with this feeling of, oh, it's time to write that book. So that was honest. And I get chills when I say it right now, but that was honestly the impetus behind the why of the timing. Was I felt like that knowing, whether you want to call it my soul, my higher self, some other force was sort of pulling me into the project. And that's now what I try to follow as my yes.
Exactly. Well, so then was it all about connecting to your soul? And then ultimately, is that what this book is about? And what do you mean when you say soul,
Right.
And obviously anyone who reads this book has to have a soul. But yeah, so what exactly does that mean? Like to find the soul solution?
Yes. Well, as someone who has been an overachiever my whole life and, got good grades, went to a good school, worked in finance, got my MBA from Stanford, I was very much a logical, linear, rational thinker trying to prove myself in the boys' club of business. And for me, I got to this point in my career where I was checking all the boxes, but inside I felt empty and like something was missing. And so that's when I started doing all this soul searching and had my own journey, which is some of what I talk about in the book. And I ended up getting really into mindfulness and meditation and past life regression healing and neuroscience, ways to reprogram your neurology to change your response to stress, all these things just for myself. And that was my part of my soul awakening. And I ended up quitting my job in finance and creating a new business to bring these tools to other people, particularly to women in the business world. And what I found over the last decade working with women was, underneath all the questions they were asking me, the most fundamental questions seemed to be, can I trust myself? And that also was kind of the fundamental question I was asking myself, because I would have these inklings of, oh, maybe I want to take this class or do this project. But then my rational mind would come in and go, well, that doesn't make sense, or that's a, and so it was really this journey of coming home to myself, my true self, and trusting my inner knowing, my body wisdom, my intuition, and bringing that more into balance with the rational, logical, linear side of me, because it doesn't mean you get rid of that other side, but we've really kind of discounted more of these feminine attributes and more soul-based living around how do you trust your intuition or listen to your inner knowing. And so the book really is a roadmap to help other women find their way back home to their true self, or what I would call your soul.
That's, I mean, and it's funny because, obviously within the title too, it's this idea, this notion that women a lot are very overwhelmed. So what is causing this overwhelm? Why are we feeling this? And then also with that too, sometimes I wonder, do I create even more overwhelm that doesn't even exist? Because
I do all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I struggle with everything I wrote about in my book pretty much every single day. Like they say, you teach what you most need to learn. So I have not mastered any of these things. I just am obsessed with wanting to master them.
Yeah.
And
well, and you took the time to put it all in a book to help all of us, because not everybody has the strength and you know what I mean, the wherewithal to do what you did with this book,
Oh, well, thank you. Well, I've done a deep dive on soul searching and trying to figure this out for over a decade. So yeah, this is the culmination of what I've learned, and I really hope it's useful for people. And in terms of the overwhelm, what I found in my own life and with so many of my clients is I just felt all this internal pressure to succeed, not like be good at business, be successful with my career, but also look really skinny and hot, and also be a good mom and show up for my kids, and also be a good wife and a good friend, and all these things. And it would lead to overwhelm because, I was trying to meet what I call in the book, these gold standards in all these categories of life. And it's truly exhausting when you do that. And not only that, but at least for me in my career, I was trying to fit into a mold of what I thought it would take or mean to be successful, rather than being my authentic self. And that causes a lot of exhaustion.
Well, it's like that thing, it looks good on paper, right? Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, this is the thing. But yeah, maybe somewhere deep inside you, it's like, nah, that's not feeding you. That's not, that's not really truly where you want to be, which is that, and that's your intuition in a way. That's what comes in.
Yeah. And sometimes our body will give us signs when we're hitting a wall, like a lot of times people will get migraine headaches or inexplainable back pain or chronic pain or hypertension or, just fatigue, exhaustion. Overwhelm is a sign that you're not nourishing yourself. You're not taking care of yourself. You're not slowing down enough. And so often those are the ways that our body is letting us know, hey, you're a little bit off course with what you really need right now, or what you really want to be doing with your time right now.
That's great. Because it is, you're putting it all in one-stop shopping with this book, for sure. But, what's interesting too, is, I like the 3 Ps, a perfectionist, people pleaser, that's me. And I'm like, oh my, that's why I think this, I was speed reading through the book, and there's certain chapters that really speak to me, but am I not alone? Or, no, you definitely say in the book, you're not alone. We're all together in this. So I think that's the thing I need to let myself know, that, this isn't a unique situation for me,
No, it's not a unique situation. And it's really important as women to reclaim our power, that we acknowledge the context we're in, which is that we live in a patriarchy that has put a lot of expectations on women on how they're supposed to show up. And that we're supposed to do it all. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why we're so exhausted. And so it's also for women, I think some self-help books, if you call it that genre, almost put the onus on women, where then we're like, well, great, now I also suck in this way because I'm a perfectionist and I'm putting all this pressure on myself. So it's important to acknowledge you're not alone. You're not crazy. This is not your fault. You're in a context of patriarchy. There's a whole ancestral lineage behind you that you come from, of women toiling really hard. There's all this, stuff in your lineage around women not being safe, and frankly, being hurt if they didn't if they didn't show up perfectly. So there's very good reason why we have all this conditioning and programming, and we can unwind it and we can choose a new way of being where we give ourselves more luxury, more pleasure, more leisure, more rest, more renewal, while moving towards big, bold goals and dreams and visions.
Yeah, exactly. And with that too, and just like getting off our, getting out of our own way. It's like, because, going through a move recently and like not being able to get my house in order fast enough. I'm like, well, that person can do it. And the big comparison thing, and it's so crazy. And I know exactly what I'm doing it as I'm doing it. But I mean, is there a great tip just specifically with chapter 8, with that inner critic? What is it that the whole point of how to deal with that inner critic? Because I think a lot of women might go through that.
Yes. Yeah. Some of it is giving ourselves permission to not do it all perfectly. So I give myself permission to have, my belongings in boxes for 3 months after the move, right? And just getting super clear on what do you need? Like maybe it's like there's one room that you really want to unpack in order to feel settled. But if you really slow down and get still with yourself, you realize those other 2 or 3 rooms, those are not a priority for me to unpack. And I'm fine leaving stuff in boxes for a month. So, taking the space to get clear and give yourself permission to be a slacker, I call it in the book. Yeah. My other favorite self-compassion, like quick self-compassion hack, is from Jen Sincero, where you say to yourself, I'm just a little bunny doing my best. And what it does is it pops you into humor. And when I first heard that expression, I was like, that's kind of weird. But then I've tried it and it works. It's so effective. So anytime you catch yourself being hard on yourself, or for me, like when I yell at my kids and I lose my temper and then I feel really bad and I start to go into a shame spiral of like, I shouldn't yell and I should be more patient.
Right.
I'll say in my head, I'm just a little bunny doing my best. And when you're in humor, it pops you into humor. You can't be in self-criticism and humor at the same time.
Don't take it too seriously, right?
Yeah. Anything you can do to get yourself into humor will pop you out of self-criticism. My son recently, I messed up this summer camp registration for my daughter. It's a long story. And I was beating myself up and I was actually like,
we'll talk after.
I made that mistake. And then some other big mistakes last year with other things that I won't go into, but I was crying. And my son turned to me, my 6-year-old, and he was like, Mommy, mistakes are just warnings. And he said it with his little lispy voice. Instead of learnings, he called it warnings with a W. And so lately, anytime I catch myself beating myself up, I just go, mistakes are just warnings. And again, it pops me into this high vibration energy because I imagine his little voice. So coming up with your own little hack that can put you into humor or joy, or a way to like see yourself with compassion and love in that moment, is a real game changer. It gets you out of the compare despair. And then if you really can't get out, honestly, doing anything to get yourself into neutral. Like I've done this where I go on an app and I'm comparing myself. I mean, how embarrassing is this? I teach meditation and I will go on the Insight Timer app and be like, that teacher is getting promoted more than me. And then I'm like a spiritual teacher who's jealous of other spiritual teachers. I'm the worst. Like
it's like we're our own worst enemy again, It's just, I don't know what happens, but I loved, because there's 2 things you write in the book that I definitely, it's like, you need to be your own pep talk, or give yourself your own pep talk, but also it's kind of a mantra that you repeat a lot, is I am exactly where I need to be. I love that. I love that, because I think if you can just keep telling yourself that, if that can pop up at any given time, I think that really is very grounding. And obviously that's the reason why you came up with that,
Yeah, I came up with that to say that to myself. Yeah, because we're always trying to get somewhere, and we think, when I get there, then I'll be happy, then I'll feel good, then I'll feel like I'm enough. And guess what? There never happens, because the bar just keeps getting higher and higher, or we get there and we don't even really savor it. One of my clients the other day was like, Vanessa, because I was saying, I haven't done enough with my business. And she was like, didn't you write a book?
You know how hard it is to write a book?
So we're all crazy, basically. No, we're just so human, and we all have these tendencies. And the more you can recognize that you're not alone in that, and and just accept, like, when those voices come in, okay, there's my compare despair voice, or there's my voice saying like I should be doing more. And just remind yourself, I'm exactly where I need to be. All is well.
You talk a lot about tuning out the noise. I imagine the inner voice thing is very much a part of that noise. But when you say that, what exactly are you meaning by tuning out the noise, not the news?
Well, the news and the noise.
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah. So our minds, if you notice, will just chatter at us incessantly all day long of like, oh, you need to do that. You didn't, have you filed your taxes yet? And no. And
I know I try to write everything down as I think of it, and then.
Yeah. So recognizing that loop and something like, I forget the statistic, it's like 80% of our thoughts are repeated every day. We're just on a loop playing the same record. And so when you can start to observe those voices instead of being the voices, you've already done massive progress, because then you're up in the seat of the observer. You're no longer believing all those stories. So that's some of what I mean by tune out the noise. What I have found is that the ego is this very loud, incessant voice in our mind. And in order to heal the soul often comes through as like a tiny little whisper, or like a little nudge, or a dream that you have, like the book dream I had, or a synchronicity, like you run into someone, you're thinking, gosh, I miss being in the art world. And then you're walking by an art gallery and you're like, you just feel called to walk inside. This happened to a client. And then you walk inside and there's someone, and then you have this deep conversation about art. And then it gives you your next little, what I call energetic breadcrumb. And so when we're on the hamster wheel of life and we're listening to all the chatter of the mind, we miss those little whispers and those little nudges and those little synchronistic moments. So you really do have to get a little bit still, create a little bit of space in your mind in order to tune into the whispers of your soul. I think that's so great, because there are some things that just all of a sudden happen. You think that is so crazy that, you think of something over here and then like a day later it pops in. But is there a success story or even just something small that that you can relay from somebody who maybe has read your book or relayed something about the advice you've given them and how it's, done something really wonderful for them? Oh, I love this one. Okay, sure. Let me sit with that. What success story? There was one client of mine who had worked in finance her whole career, and she was really burned out and unhappy. And she was the breadwinner for her family. So she was like, I can't up and quit my job because we need my income and my kids are going off to college and we got to pay for college and how am I ever going to make this work? And she took my Create Work You Love program and really worked through some of her fears and limiting beliefs, which is one of the chapters of the book. Yeah. And she ended up going to her boss and just saying, I'm not happy and I want more. And this is what I'm kind of wanting to explore other things. How can we make this work? And her boss ended up offering to pay her a year's salary for her to leave her job, which she never thought would happen in a million years. So then she took like a sabbatical. She's like, Vanessa, I did my Eat, Pray, Love, like 3 months. I did like all the trips I wanted to do and went to these other countries. And then she followed an energetic breadcrumb, which is one of the concepts in the book, went to this conference to hear Chip Conley speak at the Modern Elders Academy, sat next to this woman in the third row, a woman and her partner. And the woman's partner was like, oh, what do you do? And my client said, oh, I worked in finance, but I really want to do something that's more giving back, like helping a nonprofit, but using my background in finance and And she was just saying some of what she wanted. And the woman goes, my partner is trying to hire someone for that exact role. So she ended up getting this new job, and it was a big decrease in salary. Then when she had quit her job with the year of severance, her husband had been unemployed. When she quit her job, her husband within a month got a job because it finally energetically shifted things for him. And she said, Vanessa, we didn't even think of this, but we rented out the back part of our house on Airbnb, and we rented out the whole house when we went to make our income whole. We had this whole, like, there's this other stream of income I didn't even think about. Yeah. And she's like, right under their own roof. Yeah. And she's like, everything you taught came true. Like when you let go of the fears and the beliefs and you work through it and you get clear on what you want instead, and you visualize it, these new solutions come through with so much ease that I never would have anticipated. And it's just wild. So now her income has been made whole in these other ways that she didn't expect. And she's feeling so fulfilled and aligned. She just went to Africa and I think Cambodia, like supporting girls in developing countries through this new job. And she's just like loving it.
That's so great. And then of course it's, it's a little tiny pat on your back, because you gave her that inspiration, I mean, you really helped.
Well, she created that I feel like we're co-creating, people who are ready for what I have to, we meet somewhere in this beautiful field of wonder and magic and all these things happen, but really she created all of that for herself.
Yep.
It's really,
and just giving herself the permission. That's
what's just sometimes we need someone else to help like get the blinders off, we kind of have blinders on in our lives. And so, and that's why I love running group programs for women, because I find that we can do that for each other.
Yep. I think it's a really good, I don't know, that whatever that is, it's like we like to cheer each other on. But well, last question, but if there is a whole point to the time and struggle and stress of writing a book, what would that be? Is it really just accepting yourself for who you are? I don't want to put words in your mouth. You tell me.
Yeah, but I also just want to say that writing this book was not a stress or a struggle.
Oh, good.
And that's the old paradigm.
Look at me project.
Has to be painful and difficult. Yeah, because it wasn't. I actually felt really aligned and joyful. And it was one of the work projects I felt the most joyful doing. So that was like really exciting for me, because I'm wanting to work in this new way. And I didn't know how to do that 10 years ago. And that's part of what I'm trying to teach with the book, is like, we don't have to work in this old painful way of like suffering and struggling. It's like not necessary. But the main point, I think, is to trust yourself and your inner knowing. And that if you are not motivated at work, or if you're tired all the time, it's not because there's something wrong with you. It's not because you have to push yourself harder. Maybe it's because you need to surrender into a deeper truth that you haven't been acknowledging, that you don't like some of that work, or that you want to slow down, or that you need a break. And so just to trust yourself, to trust your inner knowing, and to trust that you're so much more powerful than you even realize. Like, we each can create an incredibly amazing life. We just have to believe that we have the ability to do that.
That's great. Well, thanks to you for putting it in a book. I'm going to share it with many, many, many people. I've got the list going right now. So, but thanks, Vanessa. It's like you're helping us find our North Star. I just love it. So, well, I want to thank you, Vanessa, but also if you want to learn more about her and the Soul Solution, you can do that by just going to our website, thewomenseye.com. And there you'll also find our books, 20 Women Changemakers. You can just shop wherever you buy books, and 20 Women Storytellers at womenstorytellers.com. So thank you again, Vanessa. I really appreciate your time. I would love to speak to you for another 3 hours. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in to the Women's Eye podcast. Be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and tune out the noise. I'm Stacey Gualandi. Remember, it's the world as we see it.